What is up? Welcome into this beautiful Victory Monday
Yep.
morning edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. And we're just discussing a little T Swift pre-show. You had yourself a time at the concert.
Eras tour made its way down here to South Florida. And my wife and I were obviously big fans of Taylor Swift. Growing up in Virginia, I was always like, Taylor Swift is my dream girl. She's a country girl. She sings. She seems like the all-American catch. And then I met my wife, who was all those things. And she also loves Taylor Swift. So we got these tickets a long time ago to see Swift. We went there, and I'm telling you, Taylor Swift is the biggest superstar on the planet. If she rode in on an effing dragon at Hard Rock Stadium, I wouldn't have been surprised, because that's like, she's like from another universe, dude. She played songs for 5 hours straight. The gal was kicking ass, singing top of her lungs, dancing. The stage, the runway stage, you know, some of these places, they have huge, it was like 70 yards long. She was end to end on that thing. Colin Saunders' brother is a backup dancer.
Oh, really?
Taylor Swift. Did you know that?
I did not know
built
that.
Exactly
is he
like
he's always in the booth.
Built exactly like Colin Saunders. Let me tell you. But great dancer, great energy.
How does he have the energy for that?
It was fantastic. Okay. And I know a lot of you guys on Twitter made fun of me for going to Taylor Swift, but I'll tell you what, try being happy and doing something that's good for a change, because going to the Taylor Swift show was the coolest thing I've done in quite some time. I would do it again tomorrow.
I will say I didn't understand quite how big Taylor Swift was until I met my fiance.
Yep.
She's a big fan. She couldn't even, so it was her birthday over the weekend, couldn't even be in Miami because we weren't going to go to the concert.
I saw a picture you uploaded from a little date night.
So we had to go. We went up to Orlando and went to Universal Studios.
It looked like a great weekend for you.
It was a great weekend. It really was. And then the Packers
Win-win.
obviously cap it off with the dub against the Texans.
Packers
we have a lot
are
to
real.
get to on today's show, because week 7, there were some darn good games. We're going to start in our first off the ball segment with the quarterback position. I'm going to get into the weeds a little bit later, but the biggest one over the course of the weekend, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Torn Achilles. You literally see it on the tape.
Brutal.
One that you just know it immediately. He'll be out for the season. From the Browns' perspective, though, I mean, Jameis Winston looked like shot of life for that offense.
There's life. I mean, and for Cleveland fans, we've talked about this all year. It's, you've been hamstrung at quarterback, and you get somebody in there with some juice, and all of a sudden the team is like, oh my God, we're alive. The light at the end of the tunnel is not a train coming to run us over. So interesting to see how this thing plays out. Obviously, Deshaun Watson's done. He's done for the year. That was
done.
That was maybe
Done.
done.
Like truly.
And owed 150 or 60 more $million.
Yeah, so he'll be on the roster for the next 2 years, but it may be in name only. He may be that third string quarterback who's the inactive on game days, because I mean, Jameis came in and scored a touchdown. Now, obviously, it's a little odd situation down there in the fourth, but even as like a Browns fan, just watching him play the position, he drops back, he throws the freaking football to where it's supposed to go. Now, sometimes that's guys guarded, sometimes it's not a great decision, but it's so much better, it's so much more fun as a fan to watch that style of football from the quarterback position than whatever the heck Deshaun Watson was doing the first 6.5 weeks of this season, which was drop back. If my guy's not wide open, sit in the pocket until I'm going to get my ass kicked. It was a lot more exciting to watch. And I think if you're going, I understand why they brought in DTR first. Your season is over, like this, you're not playing necessarily for this year. I don't think they have any aspirations of this thing turning around. And they said on the broadcast, they said Andrew Berry had him as QB5 in last year's class, 2023, which was wild to me. So they want him obviously to work out. It did not look like from the limited time he was out there that it's going to work out. It didn't look good for DTR. That's why we obviously saw Jameis come in. But what do you do if you're the Browns here going forward? Do you start Jameis or do you start DTR?
I go with Jameis, and I keep a guy like DTR on the bench who's got a ton of experience coming out of college, right? He has a ton of starts in college, and obviously he's got some starts in the NFL. But Jameis Winston gives you a level of expertise that in no way is parallel to DTR. I think the whole locker room responds well when Jameis is in there, and I think they really like him. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's obviously a physically talented guy. He's got arm talent. You alluded to it. He's going to give his guys chances whether or not they're covered. And, sometimes it works great. You could have 30 touchdowns. You could have 30 interceptions. But at the end of the day, you have a chance to have an offense that looks a little bit more modern and with a little bit more of a heart rate than prior.
And the other injury at the quarterback position to note, Jaden Daniels, rib injury. I think they were just being precautious.
His mom said he's okay.
His mom said he's fine. It didn't.
And she's an agent.
So the injury, I believe, came on that long run he had because immediately the 2 runs after that, which they kind of almost put him in a Anthony Richardson kind of situation there by running him twice right after that. But obviously, I don't think he said anything. It wasn't a Richardson situation that he didn't come off the football field. So they didn't know. He just goes down weird the next 2 runs that he has and then goes into the locker room. I don't think any Commanders fan is that worried, though, after what we saw.
It was really nice to see Marcus Mariota go out there, who was my college quarterback, obviously a really, really high draft pick coming out in 2014, was it? A 2014.
Yes, the same draft as Jameis, that number 1 and number 2 in that class.
Same draft. So, like,
2015
I was with him his first year starting at Oregon, and I got to say, there's nobody that I respect more than Marcus Mariota. The way that he handles his business, the way that he treats his teammates with respect, and he respects the game of football, and it shows. And Cliff Kingsbury and Marcus Mariota were obviously on the same page. He was able to look pretty darn good for that Commanders offense. They put a lot of points up. Got to give credit to Marcus Mariota, man. It's a tough spot to be in. You know, the city is obsessed with their quarterback, Jayden Daniels, and he goes down and everybody's heart just sinks. And if you follow PFT commenter on Twitter, he was in a melancholy, very some type of mood yesterday because of this Jayden Daniels stuff. I have to think that he feels better knowing that Marcus can bridge the gap between health and injury with Jayden.
Well, and we need him back because Bears, Commanders, next Sunday
afternoon
in Chicago.
In Washington, right?
It's in Chicago.
Is it in Chicago?
Yeah.
I just was getting ready. I was looking at flights this morning for Washington. I'm glad that you told me it's in Chicago. I was thinking about going after the pregame show.
But he needs to be healthy.
Yes.
We need the world needs it. The takes need it. Every morning show host in America needs that content. We don't want to see Marcus Mariota go out there. I will say, though.
How bad would it be if Mariota went out there and beat Caleb?
Light him up. Well, I was more saying how great was the fodder for Bears fans. The fact that the offense looked great even without Jayden Daniels.
I didn't want to tweet it. I was going to say this guy Cliff Kingsbury's pretty good. Okay, these guys are pretty good in Washington. They have a firm grasp of how to have a modern offense in the NFL. But you know what? Take it with a grain of salt. Mariota was a high draft pick. He is a very gifted guy physically, and some of the same skill sets that Jayden Daniels has in terms of mobility, quick processing. Marcus Mariota possesses.
Well, you can see why they covered him as a backup. They are, and I think who was on the broadcast? Charles Davis, I think, was on the broadcast.
CD and Iron Eagle.
He said, and I couldn't agree more. He's like, would be hard pressed to find 2 quarterbacks with similar strengths and weaknesses coming out of the draft than Mariota and Jayden Daniels. You know, just as prospects.
Yeah.
And we're very similar. Daniels, obviously, I think, is Mariota with like a little more at his disposal. He's probably got a little bit bigger arm. He's definitely a better athlete. Like, he just has like his tools kind of turned up a notch from Mariota.
Mariota's bigger, though.
But they both, but Mariota has the size, and they both have that underneath intermediate accuracy, quick release, the rushing threat. That's a big part of their game. And you can see why Cliff wanted him as the backup, because the offense, they didn't have to do a darn thing to change that offense once Mariota was in there. This
is our playbook.
The same offense.
Running. And a pro's pro, Marcus, being able to step in there. Also, when Jayden Daniels, when they got him out of his shoulder pads, he is so little.
It's just like the frame isn't getting big, right? It's like the trim. He's got like a basketball player.
Like, you're a trim guy. Like, you're built to run the 800 meter at the track event.
Exactly. Like, there's just
Jaden's
positions
like.
that
maybe the 2000 meter.
It's a frame thing. Like, he's built to play on a basketball court. Like, he's got that kind of build that, you could play wide receiver with.
Like, I got some meat between my rib cage and my shirt.
Yeah.
There's no meat between Jaden's ribs and the defenders. So, and the earth for that matter, like, you hit the earth, it hurts when you're that skinny.
I will say, though, what would you do? Caleb goes down, Bagent comes in, Bagent puts up like 320 and 3 touchdowns.
Wouldn't be surprised.
But would you be like, oh no?
I'd be like, pump the brakes. Don't peek too soon. This is what Tyson Bagent's been doing for the Bears. He comes in there and he never looks in over his head. But I mean, why would you even put that in the fucking universe now?
Okay.
Excuse my language. Excuse my language. I I got to choke out Mike Renner right now. He is saying some sacrilegious stuff. Bagent's awesome.
Just a question.
That's why we're happy with the backup situation in Chicago. That's why we didn't panic when there was these moves with Justin Fields and Caleb Williams, because we knew if nothing else worked out, we got a guy Bagent who can go in there who's physically gifted, who is a baller, and he does it every time he comes in there.
All right, the quarterback situation around the NFL.
Don't do that again.
A lot to discuss, but let's get into these games right after a quick break.
Today, with the support of the NFL, a new playbook is being written. The National Gay Flag Football League provides inclusive play for over 4,000 LGBTQ plus players and allies. Here is a home with no penalty for being you.
I got it.
All right, Jets, Steelers. We'll start with Sunday Night Football because this one got away from New York and quickly.
Yeah.
37-15, the Steelers run away with it in the second half of this game.
Literally.
So many good storylines from this one. But Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams not being on the same page. Their first two targets.
Yes.
First play off of his fingertips on like a standard, sticks hitch, 8 to 10 yard hitch, just didn't think they were at the same spot. Second target, Adams is falling down. And then the third one, he's not even looking on a 3rd and 2 crosser. It was amazing.
So I know Aaron Rodgers had Devontae staying at his house. Maybe they should get like bunk beds. Maybe that'll get them more on the same page. I know they're eating breakfast together and traveling to the facility together, but maybe stack up the bunk beds.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
It may not have been Robert Saleh. I think there's like a chance that
something
the
tells
Jets,
me that this is just the Jets.
Yeah, it may not have been Robert Saleh.
I mean, from the penalties to the drops, the key drop by Garrett Wilson on a layered football down the left sideline for Aaron Rodgers, looking to give his group a chance, and obviously hits Garrett Wilson, goes into the hands of the Beanie Baby himself, who Chris Collinsworth was having a field day with his last name. He loved talking about Beanie Babies. I think Chris Collinsworth thinks that this generation remembers Beanie Babies. They don't. They don't remember Beanie Babies. You remember Beanie Babies.
I briefly remember the hype. I went to the last game Harry Carey. No, not the last game Harry Carey announced. I went to like Harry Carey Beanie Baby night at Wrigley Field.
You're such a Midwest kid.
And that was like, I think, peak Beanie Baby craziness. I remember people offering $200 to buy the Beanie Babies after the fact.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like right after a game. That's like more than we paid for the tickets.
Well, Beanie's play last night was priceless for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah. And, the Jets are going to want to have that one back. You go out there with all these weapons. Breece Hall looked great out of the backfield. Garrett Wilson was open a lot. Alan Lazard, big catches. Devontae Adams is now a Jet. And you can't go out there and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. You get run all over.
The takes about Russ, though, after he had that one sequence where he spiked a screen.
Yes.
And then the next play, he like is scrambling and kind of throws crossbody, and it's like 10 feet away.
The Joe Burrow scramble for 60 yards if he doesn't throw it, because they're on their man coverage. They're running flood across the field. He could have just ran right behind everybody.
And he just instead, dumps one.
He throws a ground ball to the shortstop.
Really was. And then I think everyone was up in like they're like Russ is, and then all of a sudden he comes back. And now it wasn't like elite football play by any means, but he gave his guys chances to make plays, and he looks spry. We talked about skinny or Russ.
He was quick. I was wrong about Russell Wilson.
He had more ability to evade than I ever remember with the Denver Broncos. And obviously, I think was a point of emphasis for him. Maybe that's why he pulled the calf. He's been in the lab working back on this fitness, because that was an aspect to his game that, we hadn't seen in a while. And if you go back, I mean, this just kind of reminded me, just watching this game back, it just felt like I was watching back, some early to mid 2010s Seahawks games.
Yep.
Because the defense was playing great, right? Obviously, like holding them to 15 points, but then he makes kind of just enough plays.
And they can run the ball.
Just enough plays, and then you run the ball. So it was.
But look, you said it. He gave his guys a chance. And, I'm texting you and Harry. Shout out to Harry in the control room remote. But we were talking about some things that we wanted to cover further. And it's like George Pickens. When George Pickens is committed to playing the game of football, there are not many human beings that can do what he can do from a talent standpoint And Russell Wilson knows that. He said, this is the way that I'm going to make things happen for the Steelers. This is my trump card. I am going to give George Pickens a chance on some of these patented high trajectory footballs. And I think Chris Collinsworth did a great job explaining, because Chris Collinsworth, you look at him, you don't think athlete, but he was an NFL receiver and a good one. Mm-hmm. And he talked about the.
Why don't you think athlete, Kyle?
You know what? Here's a guy that doesn't really look very explosive.
Yeah.
So he was explaining the difference between a bullet throw and the high lofted, coming in from the sky throw that Russell Wilson has gotten into. And I know that there's a lot of quarterbacks who can hit targets all over the field in 7-on-7, bullet, lasers. Russell Wilson understands that your percentages go up when the ball comes out of the sky, because as a defender, you're not in the way the whole time. You're only in the way at the very end when the ball falls into the bucket. Mm-hmm. So you need to be essentially on the toes of these receivers, and which receiver is really tough to play on the toes of and to get above and to make strong-handed catches over? George Pickens. And when he's committed to the cause and Russell Wilson's giving him a chance and he can right his wrongs with some good performance, you expect to see it. That's what happened last night.
Pickens has a lot of prime DeAndre Hopkins to his game. And we talked about how DeAndre Hopkins kind of like he got the contracts for Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, like his ability to do that consistently. And George Pickens has that. I mean, if we're talking about ranking guys who I trust the most when the ball's in the air to get to that ball first, he's top 5 in the NFL right now. He just has that, such elite ball skills, the ability, the physicality to catch point.
And so balanced and strong after the catch. Like it takes 1.5 guys to get him down. He always feels like, he's falling. He puts his hand down. He's ready to get 5 more yards. He is so strong, and he's leaner than you think. Like he's
just
really
wiry. He's like a Jamar Chase kind of strong, where it's not big strength. It's just somehow that dude's stronger than you. So when he's locked in, though, obviously, like they got locked in.
And when he's not locked in, he's the most frustrating guy on the field.
Oh, easily.
He's the most awe-inspiring guy on the field when he shows up and he's focused. And when he's not, he's the most frustrating guy, even for a non-Steeler fan like myself. Like, you want to just put the Steelers on and watch some football. You end up getting pissed off more often than not. But last night, that was awesome. And to Russell, I was wrong. You looked great. The deep ball is as advertised. You do look good. Your mobility looks great. And those Pittsburgh Steelers fans that were booing after the first three and outs, screw them, man. They don't really know what they're talking about anyway.
I did love that we had, unfortunately for Broderick Jones, he had to go against the guy drafted literally right after him in last year's draft. All day long, he had to go against Will McDonald. They're pick 14 and pick 15 in the 2023 NFL draft. And Will McDonald kind of gave it to him a little bit there. Yeah. The last note, though, no DJ Reed was huge in this game. Brandon Knuckles just was not up to the task. I don't have the stats in front of me. PFF has not released them yet, but they're not going to be good.
Come on, PFF. Focus, PFF.
All right, let's get to Texans Packers.
Yep.
Where the Packers failed to cover at home, but I don't think anyone minds. They win 24-20 as 2.5-point favorites. The under hits 47.5 points. Vegas kind of nailed that one to a T, within 1.5 points on the over/under and within 0.5 point of the spread. But the Packers have a kicker and a defense.
Yep.
Look out.
Yep.
Look out.
I mean, it was like watching a Throwback Thursday film. They were playing really good defense. Jordan Love had some turnovers, but also had some awesome throws. And I mean,
he's way more Favre than Rodgers.
The people in Green Bay, that's what they tell you. They tell you he's, the layman wants to say, well, he throws off his back foot and with arm slots, he's Aaron Rodgers. No.
Favre was the original of that.
He's got the F-it gene.
Where do you think Rodgers learned it from?
Which is the same guy that I grew up with a card of his on my mantle. There was only one football card I had. It was Brett Favre. Because of the way that he played the game, I see it from Jordan Love. I understand why people love him so much. Great job by the defense. He's just a clutch baller. You put the ball in his hand at the end of the game, and you're going to have a chance to go down there and win it. And credit to McManus and those fans. They showed up great. The whiteout looked great. I wasn't crazy about the white jerseys, the all white jerseys.
I liked them.
You liked them?
I liked them.
I wasn't crazy about I'm an O-lineman. I look like shit in all white. I look like a bag of marshmallows. Okay.
The Stay Puft Marshmallow.
Exactly that.
Or the Michelin Man.
Exactly. The Michelin Man more than the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
I will say, though, Love, you said clutch. He almost threw that game away, and they didn't really talk about it on. Now, that throw was sweet.
Yeah.
Put it a little too far inside. But it was more actually the catch by Tucker Kraft was insane.
Five-man rush. All 5 linemen are occupied in 1-on-1s. Being able to stand back there. Look at this. Look at that. Josh Jacobs blocking. That's a commitment to excellence, man.
That's a window that Favre and Rodgers have hit a number of times. It actually kind of reminds me a little bit of a throw Favre made against the Bengals back like late 90s, maybe early 2000s.
And that's triple extension from the safety right there. That's like he saw it as it was happening. He made a break. He gave absolute effort, and he didn't get there because sometimes they just make a better throw.
But they didn't really highlight this on the broadcast. But if you'll recall the play right before the last play of the game, he had Dontavian Wicks deep through to the end zone. One should have been a touchdown. Like Dontavian Wicks cooked Eric Murray. They had a great call for what the defense was. They kind of picked up an all-out blitz and had that wide open. He overthrew it. If Eric Murray had located the football sooner, he turns around and it's just like in his breadbasket. But he knew he was cooked, starts to go play the man and comes too far up. But if he just stayed back, it would have been a pick. So didn't go in the statue. He kind of got away with one there. That's unfortunately kind of been the thing I've worried about with Love. And what he did so often last year, he did at the end of that 49ers game is when in doubt, he kind of throws up some prayers. Like there's a difference between taking chances with the ball and throwing up prayers.
That's where the effort comes in.
And I worry that he still trends a little bit too much towards the prayers.
I don't know if he's praying or gambling at this point. He's just like spamming the max bet every single time.
Yeah.
But sometimes you hit. Sometimes that car.
But if it hits,
sometimes
that's
that
how
car
you get the jackpot.
in.
Exactly.
But Jordan Love and the Packers, they're real. They are as advertised. They're a complete football team. Hafley's done a great job with the defense. The offensive line plays great. We were just watching it right there. Josh Jacobs, a stud. Jordan Love, stud. You got tight ends. You've obviously got those receivers. And Matt LaFleur is another guy that continues to be underappreciated nationally. There's all these names that we throw around every week, but Matt LaFleur seems to be the guy that stays in there and has great offense.
And I want to say, they have a lot of guys. Sometimes when you have that, you have an inclination to be like, are they actually good or is it just like the offense? When I watch Romeo Doubs, when I watch Jaden Reed, and when I watch Tucker Kraft, those guys are good. Those guys are real deal wide receivers. Now, Jaden Reed had to drop at the end of the first half, but those guys get open. They make plays after the catch. That trio is real. Dontavian Wicks, close as well. Like I think he has
juice,
route running ability, yak ability. His ball skills this year have just been like a nightmare. Watson's more just a vertical threat. He's kind of a whatever piece in that offense. But those top three, those are guys that, you had last drive of the game, Derek Stingley, Romeo Doubs, man coverage. Doubs gets him on a slant, 11-yard gain. It's like that. That's number one type of wide receiver stuff. Number one wide receiver, number one corner. You got to match up one-on-one.
Yeah.
Your guy wins. That doesn't happen. That's not scheme. That's a guy winning a route. So the bigger thing for me, though, as I said, they got to kicker Brandon McManus hitting back-to-back game winners after the getting iced on the first one. But the defense, CJ Stroud, 10 of 21 for 86 passing yards.
4 sacks, 7 hits, 86 yards total.
197 total yards in the game for the Texans. They got kind of gifted 2 drives that started at the Green Bay 11 because obviously a muff punt picked by Jordan Love. But defense came to play. And I love the guy I got to highlight here, Evan Williams. I said they flipped up kind of the starting lineup. I talked about that a few weeks ago. I think it was against the Rams to get him in the starting lineup at safety. It's in retrospect, that's what it looks like because he has been so good since. Such a good tackler. It's like they have Adrian Amos back in his prime when he came over there from Chicago and was such an impact player for them. That's what Evan Williams like. He made so many tackles around.
Heavy-headed,
so
willing tackler.
Such a good box safety.
That's such a good way to put it. Adrian Amos, because that's exactly what he was. He was with Chicago first, then he went to Green Bay. Hated playing that guy. Hated playing. Love Amos.
So Packers, they're
dominant.
This defense,
to be honest, with the turnovers, they keep teams around. So when we're not playing the Texans without Nico Collins,
that's the thing. Texans, you just saw it in this game, missing Nico Collins. You had the first drive that the Texans, I think, started at the 11. 2 different plays, one to Tank, both to Tank Dell, actually. One Tank Dell drops, then one in the back of the end zone that Tank can't get 2 feet in because it's too high.
Yep.
Nico Collins could have just stood there and plucked out of the air on his feet, but Tank has to go up in the air and all of a sudden goes out the back of the end zone. So they miss him desperately. They just don't have the size in that receiving core otherwise.
Yeah,
so have just like that contested catch.
Third downs become a nightmare for Houston, because you don't have a true winner.
Well, Stephon Diggs still is.
No, in my opinion, it's not Nico Collins. It ain't Nico Collins. It's not the physical specimen that can just beat any matchup regardless of the scheme, zone, personnel. Like Nico Collins wins. That's all he does. I watched him against that Chicago group. He's one of the best in the National Football League, and he just made mincemeat out of them. So, without Nico Collins, I don't see this team being able to make the run that they want to make.
Did you see Stephon Diggs' quote after the game?
I am never the bigger man.
I'm never the bigger person.
First off, we see that. Second off, I respect that. Steph, when you're between the lines, even before the game, you got to be on your shit. And my dad used to tell me, walk a mile around an altercation, but never back down from a fight. And when I saw the entire roster from the Green Bay Packers surrounding little number one, I was like, man, I respect old Jon Snow out there getting dragged out of the Lambeau Field warm-up lines. Stephon Diggs is the kind of guy you want on your football team, though. But if there's not juice,
he
brings some juice.
You can see why two different teams have traded him also.
But Jair Alexander, the same thing could be said.
When you're I know. And Jair at times was on his last legs at times. I thought he was actually, after he got benched for the out for the
captaincy.
Yeah, the captain going out for the opening coin toss when he wasn't supposed to. I was like, he might be gone. Like, that's just like a crazy.
They should just let these guys fight. If it's two guys that play a congruent position, like if there's no lineman and a D lineman before the game and they're jawing, like we saw Brandon Graham standing outside the tunnel last week talking mess to the Browns, and they were jawing back and forth, but nothing comes of it. This week we see Stephon Diggs, Jair Alexander. They would have fought if there was nobody else. They would have fought. I say we let these guys fight. And we just air it as the pregame. Like if I'm in the studio in the pregame show and they say, oh God, Stephon Diggs and Jair Alexander are fighting, I'm going to back away from the desk. And I'm going to be like, show it. I want to see it. This is what people want to see.
Also, a fight with helmet and pads on, as long as a helmet doesn't come off.
It's awesome. Keep your helmet on.
There's not much you can really do.
Just wrestling.
That isn't just the game of football. It's kind of like the trenches.
It's not that unsafe.
Yeah. All right, let's get to Lions Vikings, the game of the weekend. Lions overcome a botched punt fake early in the game. The punt fake kings don't have a successful one. They try to run a little speed option on the punt. Doesn't work out for them. They overcome a fumble 6 from David Montgomery to still win 31-29 as 2.5-point dogs in Minnesota. Overhits in that one, 49.5 points. Lions now take the lead atop the NFC.
Another week where Jared Goff goes the first half with 0 incompletions, 12 for 12. Stop trying to box this guy, Jared Goff, out from the MVP conversations. He finished 22 of 25 with 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And better than that, every time that he got pressured by Brian Flores and his friggin' Wonder Boy defense, he shredded him up. Like John Gruden is going to have an absolute aneurysm on social media today watching Jared Goff play football against the Minnesota Vikings. The Lions trailed by 10 early, first double-digit deficit for this football team. And then what do? 21 unanswered points in the second quarter. That leads Minnesota to the locker room break, being down for really the first time on the year. It was electric to watch Jared Goff versus pressure. He's so accurate. He does such a great job. Ben Johnson's amazing. This Lions team is so friggin' dangerous. And without Aiden Hutchinson, there was a lot of time for Sam Darnold to throw the football. Mm-hmm. We saw him get through his progressions twice on some plays, but it wasn't enough to beat the Lions offensively.
I want to go into a little bit what Ben Johnson did to defeat Brian Flores, because I said it on the pregame, and why I like the Lions so much is that he already had answers last year, and he's been so good against the blitz and what they do. And I think there's 3 big things that I saw that I don't want to say are necessarily unique, but that they definitely hit home in this game to try to shut down these blitz packages. They were running out of super condensed formations. Yep. So not necessarily having heavy formations, but when they were running, they were packed in everyone tight. So your farthest out wide receiver is probably about 4 or 5 yards away from your offensive tackle. So like their big run, the Jahmyr Gibbs run, they had, it was J-Mo and Tim Patrick on the outside. They were probably like 4 or 5 yards split from the line of scrimmage. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown as a Y, like literally on the line of scrimmage, right next to Penei Sewell at right tackle. So he's the kick out block on, I believe it was like an outside zone run. And then you have your tight end at fullback. And so it was like this And so that kind of brings everyone in. And the Vikings, what they do up front. We've talked about Flores and how they bring so much chaos with stunts and blitzes and like slants and whatnot.
External dogs coming off of pirate stunts.
Exactly. If that meant anything to you guys.
So pirate stunt is where you see a defensive lineman and then they cross face immediately on the offensive lineman. And then what happens when somebody crosses your face? Well, just by math and responsibility, somebody's either coming over the top or somebody's coming to fill in from the slot. You see that with Minnesota, a lot of stuff from all over.
So that it basically what that does is creates so many gaps to worry about that if one just gets a little spread, little off kilter, and you don't have your corners filling quick enough, you just get these gaping holes in that whistle.
I'll liken it to this. For those of you who like basketball, and this is a simpler way to kind of get into people's mind. You know the half court trap and the full court trap?
Yeah.
Like when we need a stop, we're going to get our guys down there on your inbounds pass. What happens if both guys don't get there at the same time? Then you get that quick transition bucket. People aren't back on defense. It's the same thing with these gaping holes that are now available for the Lions. When you have slanting guys, when you've got blitzers, it leaves some of these voids in the defense. And that's what Ben Johnson was attacking.
So at that, they use their tight ends to chip, but not their running backs to pick up and pass, bro. So basically then their pass sets looked like super condensed because they knew that they were going to be sending those wide nines, those outside edge rushers. They knew they were going to be sending them back inside.
They have to come to
that if an interior blitz did come, it's not so far. There's not this big wide spread of the offensive tackles creating these gaps in the middle that they can go through. It basically condenses everything down and just has a lot of linebackers hitting their head against this kind of wall that you set up there. And then the other thing they did is they made their running backs available immediately for checkdowns.
That's the bluffing blitz. It's the bluff the rushers. They pretend like they're going to hit them, and then they snap their heads around. They just
immediately come free for those checkdowns right over the middle of the football field or sometimes out wide. But like depending on the concept, but having that immediate option, I think Goff hit it like 5 times in this game. That was huge because you're not going to get every blitz cleanly, right? Brian Flores, he's creative enough. Even with all the things I said, some are going to leak through. But then just having that one guy available that Goff can consistently go to was so massive for them in this game.
And that's the true check down. I mean, that's the true hot route. Like, that's the true hot right there. He's getting to your guy immediately. You know he's there. And last night we're watching the Steelers play, and TJ Watt's over there rushing, and the broadcast team's talking about the resources they allocate to try to get him slowed down, and it's often 4 hands. Well, sometimes just the illusion that it's going to be 4 hands slows up these rushers enough. And to your point, they had the tight ends chipping, and they had the running backs leaking out and asked not to engage with these defensive linemen. Because sometimes what do these defensive linemen do to the running backs?
They crunch them.
They grab them.
Yep.
And now you don't have a check down. So what Ben Johnson said is make them feel you, but don't touch them. And what I mean by that is get on their angle, get up into them, and get by them. Bluff these rushers, affect them mentally, and now Jared Goff has you, and we take the edge off of that rush. It's actually a really smart way to do it.
For the Lions, from a defensive perspective, they did struggle to replace Aiden Hutchinson. Now, they did exactly what we said they were going to do. They brought a lot of linebackers on the blitz. Of their 4 sacks in this game, 3 were linebackers that had them. So, like, that was how they generated pressure. But those guys off the edge were not winning. Again, it's a tough duo. There's an incredible stunt pickup here from Christian Darrisaw that we have to watch. If we could roll that one back again, you're going to love this.
Oh, is this the man beater?
Left tackle. Look at this.
He gets through all this. Yeah.
This is spin
on the spinner.
Meets him exactly where he's going.
That's perfect. Okay.
Just completely confident.
So usually you're supposed to if you run that back and pause it when he first engages with the slanter. Okay. So pause it right here. So right now, can you pause it when he's square? Right there. Okay. So right now, 71, Christian Darrisaw, really good player. It's supposed to send him left hand, right hand, send him and stay square. Now as Darrisaw, you would have to drop that left foot a little bit and kick back like you're a left tackle because you got somebody else coming. So roll it here. He gets too far on the snap off, knows he has to pirouette because he can't turn left once he snaps him off. Be an athlete, find a way to get it done. That's why they pay the big bucks to offensive tackles. That is some freak shit right there. Christian Darrisaw, that's awesome. He'll get some love in the O-line room.
So not a huge deal considering who they went against. Christian Darrisaw, Brian O'Neill. That's a tough matchup, but it did show up. And they're going to have to account for that. But what can account for that? Well, Brian Branch played out of his mind in this game. I still can't believe this guy fell to the second round. He was, if you just followed the draft, I guess that was last year, he was one of the most universally beloved prospects. Just no holes in his game, besides he's not an elite athlete. But watch this play at the goal line. This was the pass breakup on the 2-point conversion that ended up being preventing overtime because of it. Him following the receiver and then immediately snapping off, passing it off. There's so much eye candy in terms of the pre-snap motion that he has to follow. So he has Addison if he goes inside. He has whoever goes inside. And he has to pass that route concept off within a second of the snap after
and then drive on
all of that. And he had a pick. And he had another pass breakup in this game. Just a monster performance from him. So Lions, I think their defense will be all right. It ain't going to have the same teeth, but guys like him, Terrion Arnold, I thought played his best game in coverage that I've seen from him. Just a nice rebound performance for this Detroit Lions team. But I will say, Sam Darnold, he didn't play too bad, but the throw he had overthrew to Justin Jefferson on a third down, they convert that. They could have iced the game out on that drive. It was open and he missed it. And that was
it's crazy. The Vikings could have won that game.
Yeah.
But you give the Lions an opportunity at the end and they make it happen. So for Minnesota, they're going to try to find a way to bounce back. And for Detroit, they got to just keep things rolling. I love this Detroit Lions team. They're as dangerous as anybody in the NFL because of the different ways they can get it done. And obviously the Hutchinson injury is going to be really huge moving forward, but Glenn will learn from it. He'll make some adjustments to his rush plan. But like you said, they were able to get home with some second level pressures. See if they can roll that into next week.
Yeah, Jared Goff now the highest 3-game passer rating since 1970, 153.1.
Come on.
They have more touchdowns than incompletions over the last 4 games, Detroit Lions.
And you know what's crazy is that 2013, keep this graphic up, Jared Goff is better than the 2013 Nick Foles on the Chip Kelly offense. And if you guys remember that Chip Kelly offense with Nick Foles, it was like they had reinvented the wheel in Philadelphia. We got beat by like 40 points by that team. And we were not a bad team in 2013. So credit to Jared Goff. He's awesome. MVP conversation?
There's no like great, he's I guess Lamar, but like no one's really playing out of their mind right now.
The odds-on favorite is Patrick Mahomes right now.
No effing
it is.
way.
It is.
Right, let's get to that game then.
Harry?
Let's get to that game. Oh, I got to give one more shout out. Game ball goes Frank right down that game. We said the nut stunts that they do. You said pirate stunt. I call nut stunt.
Nut stunt, TT. Pirates are slants.
Okay.
Pirates are slants. Games are what you're talking about. Nut, ET, Tex.
He continually picked those up, took them off the line of scrimmage. Anytime he tried to get his face crossed in the running game, he was getting 3 to 4 yards of push on those. And that's just huge. That kept the running game going. So hats off to Frank.
He's a man-eater.
All right, Chiefs, 49ers. Chiefs come away with a big win, 28-18 on the road. It didn't feel like they put up 28 points, though, rewatching this offense. It was kind of tough.
Yep.
Mahomes, there's not guys running wide open, right? There's not guys separating at a high level, but he also missed a lot of throws. This was not a good game from him. I tweeted out he overthrew Xavier Worthy and also underthrew Travis Kelce.
Yep.
Which seems like a difficult combo.
Overthrowing Xavier Worthy seems like one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah. It went about 65 yards, that throw. But then underthrowing Travis Kelce seems about equally as hard to not even get it to him down the right sideline. He now has a lower EPA per dropback than Trevor Lawrence does this year.
Hey, you know what? He's going through some things right now. There's a lot of situations happening in Kansas City with that offense, with the personnel. You got to give credit to this group, though. They find a way to keep winning. You go on the road to San Francisco. You reinvent the way that you're going to play football. You outrush the Niners, who are synonymous with running the football at will. I give a lot of credit there. And really the story of the game is Steve Spagnuolo on that defense and the way that he just finds a way to have complete team football happening on the defensive side of the ball. And yes, they have stars on their team. You talk about some of the all pros on that group, but really it's all 11 guys playing at one speed and seeing the game through one set of eyes. That's what I appreciate the most about that Kansas City defense. It gives them a chance to win every week, regardless of who is in or out on the offensive side of the football.
Brett Veach's ability, or maybe it's Steve Spagnuolo, whoever there is scouting their corners, their ability to ID guys who are going to fit their scheme has been second to none in the NFL because of what it's taken them to do so. You go back to L'Jarius Sneed. He's a 4th rounder. You have Joshua Williams in playing this one, but he was a 5th rounder. This game, 2 7th rounders in Najee Johnson and Jalen Watson are your starting outside cornerbacks. And they went out and they played not solely press man, but press concepts the entire game. And now again,
they weren't afraid of that group.
Yeah, there was a group of wide receivers for the 49ers that was basically their second string.
No Jawan Jennings either.
No Jawan Jennings. No Brandon Ayuk. No Deebo Samuel in this game. So Brandon Ayuk for the first half, but then he obviously had the gruesome leg injury that they fear is going to be an ACL, which is massive for that team. But you're going up against Chris Conley, Ronnie Bell, Ricky Pearsall. So given that caveat, but those guys won the game more so than even like the pass rush did. I know the pass rush got home a few times, but those guys were disrupting the timing and making Brock Purdy uncomfortable in that pocket.
That's what Lee J talks about, marrying rush with coverage. Yeah. And sometimes both of those things aren't great, but if they're pretty good together, it's a really frustrating day at the office for the offense. And Brock Purdy, I mean, for a 36.5 passer rating, 8 for 18 to wide receivers. Patrick Mahomes, 44.5 passer rating, 5 of 12 to wide receivers, and 1 hit and run at the goal line that was heard around the world.
Ricky Pearsall, first taste of action for the first rounder. I thought him and Purdy were just not on the same page. They did not have each other's timing down, whatever it was, because there were multiple times that Pearsall won. He was looking at him, didn't go his way. A couple other times that Pearsall wasn't looking for a throw and the ball was coming his way. So still the timing getting him up to speed, but I think you saw some, if Deebo, Ayuk, and Jennings are out, he is their best separator. And I think like even with Ayuk out, he has to fill the Ayuk role in that offense now. That is who he is. So he needs to get up to speed quickly.
George Kittle on a go ball down the sideline. I love to see old George Kittle get after it. There's not many people I like watching more than George Kittle. Does the guy just look like he has fun? And I know he's in pain because he plays the game so physically. He plays such a physical brand of football, running the football, catching it, yards after catch. I just love watching George Kittle play the game, man. How lucky are we? Travis Kelce, George Kittle on the same football field last night.
Well, I will say, though, 49ers, it's worth wondering if they'll ever be, everyone knows at full strength, it's like this offense is a house, right? But now with Ayuk out for the season, McCaffrey, whatever's going on with him, are they just going to be hampered by this? Is it just going to be this kind of mismatched offense that can't seem to really put it together on a consistent basis throughout the season?
Do they have brain drain a little bit from their staff?
Coaching staff?
Their staff their staff being poached over the last few years. I mean, we talk about the injuries, but how important is it that there are other voices in that room with Kyle Shanahan to be able to talk through some of the questions he has throughout the week when they're going through install? Because oftentimes these coaches, they come up with plays, they come up with schemes, and then they bounce it off the other brains in their building. The best brains have been taken out of San Francisco. I mean, I know Kyle Shanahan's still there, but you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. He can't do the entire install. Right?
Can't do the entire thing.
Can't do the entire thing.
As much as he said. And you're behind the 8 ball from a physical standpoint. All your stars are gone. All of your stars are gone right now, except for George Kittle and Brock Purdy. And you got some offensive linemen, obviously, but one of them got kicked out of the game last night. I'm thinking that what we're seeing is real with San Francisco. And obviously, they found a way to get it done early in the season. They've been dangerous at certain points. But if you can't win at home against that performance by the Kansas City offense, then I have real issues with what's going on in San Francisco. And whether it's staff or injury or brain power within the building, there's clearly a disconnect in the Bay Area, and they're going to need to figure it out. And Shanahan's catching some flack here.
I will say the sneak he dialed up.
Yep.
If we have the video of this, was one of the coolest, most innovative sneaks. Now, I think someone tweeted out the Rams running this back in the early 2000s. But you get a quarterback sneak at the goal line where both left guard and right guard pull. So those two nose tackles, they got to read guards.
They call this the Moses.
And so they don't know what's going on here.
They
think this ball's going to a running back.
Did Moses part the Red Sea? Is that what it was?
I think so.
That's kind of what it looks like. There's a lot of red out
history.
there. He parted the red D here on the goal line.
Is that Clifford, the big red dog?
Clifford, the big red D.
For the 49ers perspective, though, they are below 500 now.
Not good, Cotton.
3-4. The whole NFC West is kind of struggling, though, outside of the Seahawks at 4-3.
Watch Derek Nottie here. Run that back again. This is comedy. Okay, so I stopped watching the point of attack, and I started watching other people's reactions. So he sees the right guard pull. You're taught as a defensive lineman.
He's going outside the right tackle.
He just runs himself out of the play.
Everyone does.
This defense looks really hard. I'm glad I played offense because we've got assignments. We know which way the ball goes, what the snap. Defense is like, go see it and hit it, man. And if you see it wrong, boy, you look like an idiot.
But that's also why I always say to scheme one side of the ball, you kind of have to know the other side of the ball. Because if you're just telling someone, hey, we're going to take these two blockers out, just like if you knew nothing about football, you'd be like, that's crazy. Why would you do that?
Doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's because those guys, what they're reading is the movement of them. So it does make sense. Yeah. So 49ers, this is tough. But for the Chiefs, the last undefeated team. They are the last undefeated team in the NFL.
There can only be one Highlander.
Do you know who the last undefeated team, though, to win the Super Bowl was? The team who was the last undefeated team in their season.
The team that was the last undefeated team? No, I don't.
It was the Indianapolis Colts back in 2006.
Oh, against the Bears.
So it's been a while.
You're just like on my ass today.
So the Chiefs are jinxed.
You're just up my ass with
just
this
making
Bears
the Bears references.
Mike's getting froggy today, bro.
Did I have any more notes in this game? Yes, I will say more Jacob Cowing, less Chris Conley. That was my note. Cowing came in, a couple big plays. Guy had some juice to that offense. So if you are really down some wide receivers, get him involved. All right, we're going to take
Mecole Hardman. Looks like the old Mecole Hardman.
He could run a jet sweep to the cows come home.
But you know what? If you've played with Mecole, you're happy for him.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. I'm happy to see that his involvement is big and they trust him.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Get it to the Bengals at Browns after this.
It's a team almost too good to be true.
You guys ain't ready for us.
Kick your game day off right as the Tops team tackles all the biggest headlines around the league.
Who's got two thumbs and loves this next segment?
Sunday mornings on CBS Sports Network.
Not supposed to do that.
Not supposed to tweet out practice film like Hollywood Brown's been doing, but he's a vet. And you can get to that. All right, Bengals, Browns. Bengals come away with a 21-14 victory. Cover the 6.5 point spread. The under hits there, 41.5 points. Obviously, we discussed the Deshaun Watson injury off the top of the show. He'll be out for the season with Achilles. The Bengals, just after that happened, it felt like they were just trying to not have Joe Burrow suffer the same fate because he was under fire. As much as this Bengals offensive line we've talked about, it's improved. We talked about Amaris Mims not being terrible out the right side for
Orlando Brown went down with a knee.
But Orlando Brown goes down with a knee injury in that game, and they're like, oh, man, we are overmatched.
Shut it down.
We are overmatched here. Get the ball out of your hands quickly, Joe. So that's what they did. Obviously, still come away with a victory. Orlando Brown, he goes down mid-game. Supposedly nothing serious.
Hope you're okay, OB. Love you, buddy.
Geno Stone goes down mid-game. Apparently nothing serious there as well, although it took like forever for him to get off the field. That was wild. Not a lot to discuss here.
Was that after the pick?
No, it was after a late play to, I think.
It was probably during the pilot announcement when they throw the overlay. It's like PA announcement. Your TV will be back soon. And I'm like, get the game back on, bro. You're going to fly the plane. We know. Something goes down, I'll tackle people.
From the Browns, though, some encouraging signs, I'll say from like a young player perspective. I really liked what I saw from Mike Hall in this game. Do we have these cut-ups of Mike Hall? He had a couple reps in this game. Your second-round rookie. There he is, number 51. Look at these.
Yo, that's called a long arm, strong arm right there, okay? You get that inside hand on a guy's V of his neck, you can do things with it. There's the left hand. He's doing a little jiu-jitsu there. Run it back to that last clip. Okay, he goes inside, uses the left hand. That's a mini hump right there. That's a little mini hump bull rush. I like to see that.
Seeing a rookie bull rush right out the gate, especially one he was 20 years old when he was drafted. Super young player.
Just a baby.
He looks like very encouraging signs for a DT. After Byron Murphy in this DT class, he looks like the second best.
So this is what happens when you try to wheel and wall a defender, okay, as an offensive lineman. if you are an offensive lineman on my team and you want to throw your ass in the hole, get off my field. I need to see you move off the line of scrimmage, stay square, play big. Like 51's playing. Look at 51. He's going, Derek, what was it? Allen Iverson stepping over Coach Lou. Remember that clip?
Yeah, it's around Lou, yeah.
That's what happens. That's what happens right there when you try to put your ass in the hole. You end up getting stepped over like that.
I thought Isaiah McGuire looked good as well in this game. Your fourth rounder from a year ago. So some encouraging signs there. But after that, I mean, this Browns team, Jerry Jeudy looks checked out. He's consistently has the lowest talent to production ratio in the NFL. I wonder if he's just like not smart.
He's probably where I would be at mentally in that situation.
But that Browns team, I don't know. It's not much to say at this point. Bengals had to have it. So
I played on a really bad team one time, and I'm not going to name the name of the guy, but I had a veteran teammate of mine who at practice begged me to jump on his leg so I would break his leg so he didn't have to practice every day. Sometimes I feel like some of these guys in these situations like Cleveland, they're just like, please jump on my leg. Please get me out of here. And we'd always laugh. Funny joke. But at the end of the day, I think he was serious. And some guys cannot handle being in a situation where there is no light at the end of the tunnel.
Because the Browns right now at 1-6, if we were to draft right now, they would have the third overall pick. And with the way New England has looked, they currently own number one. The way New England has looked, they might win a couple games here. Maybe not. Their defense has not lived up to what people thought they'd be. Carolina's definitely going to be.
Coach Mayo says.
Carolina's definitely going to be drafting 1, 2, or 3. They are not going to win too many more games. So the Browns at this rate, I don't think they end up with a top 3 pick. I still think they can win games. And honestly, I think they're a better team now than they were going into this game.
Oh, they're a better team without Deshaun Watson. This is the table we've been standing on for the last couple of weeks here. I mean, you get an opportunity now to have some juice at the quarterback position. And to your point, you got some arm talent there. You got some experience there. You could be looking at the Browns making some moves here offensively.
All right, on to the Rams game. Raiders.
What are we doing?
What were they doing? They lose 15-20. Not going for it.
Down 8.
At
Goal
the 9.
to go at the 9. Need a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Let's kick the field goal, man. Let's make our offense march the whole way back down the field after potentially a stop by our defense. Doesn't make any sense, man. But you're the smart guy. Explain this to me.
Oh no, that was the wrong call. I can't explain it to you. It is Antonio Pierce. It's the old football adage of trust my defense. But it's not trusting your offense because, your defense gets stopped, but then
you have to go down the field 70
and then you got to
yards.
go now you have to go 90-plus yards and score a touchdown. Instead of before, you still had to score a touchdown. So you're at the 4th and 9. You don't get it there. You're probably, when you get the stop after that, you're getting the ball at like the 40 or the 50.
Yep.
You're getting the ball back in good field position. And then all you have to do is go down and score a touchdown. So that one didn't make any sense. It's not like the Raiders are going anywhere at this point, but they had a chance to. I mean, it wasn't. AFC is kind of wide open at this point in time.
Hours.
I will say, though, there is some light at the end of the tunnel. There is some silver lining. This looks like the best Raiders draft in some time.
DJ, Brock Powers.
And we said it when they drafted. They took some of the highest floor players I saw in this year's draft in their first and second round pick. Brock Bowers, Jackson Powers-Johnson. You just got good players.
Yep.
And now if we could just keep stacking drafts like that, if they just would have had that identity from like 2018 when Gruden took over, it's like, hey, let's not like take wild swings at the bat here. Let's just draft guys who
base
are
hits. Stack a couple base
talented.
hits. You're looking at like a Lions roster.
Then they could have. Obviously, that's why they are where they are now, though, is because they didn't. But things are changing. Those two guys look like studs. Brock Bowers, especially 10 catches in this game, 93 yards. And then Delmar Glaze, your third rounder, started at right tackle in this game. I didn't think he was too bad. Now, they gave him some help. He wasn't tested a ton one-on-one pass pro, but like in the running game did some nice things. So encouraging start for your first, second, and third rounders. So there's a little silver lining for you. Everyone knows they still need a quarterback. We'll see if they can figure that out in the draft. But
silver and black lining.
Rams perspective, I mean, there's not a lot of silver lining from them in this game. Matt Stafford didn't look good. The offense looked rough. They obviously still don't have their pieces.
Kyron Williams a baller.
The only silver lining is that the 49ers lost and that this division's still could be like a 10-7
to be controlled.
So once Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua come back, could be a different story. But right now, these teams are just, neither of them are good. You come away from that game and it's like, yeah, you won, but it's like, well, we still stink.
Yeah,
it's
and
like,
Seattle goes and wins on the road. Now you're looking at a group in your division who's figuring out how to win ball games. Look out, man.
Let's get to that Seattle
weird
because Seattle housed the Falcons. Probably the most impressive singular victory of anyone over the season in terms of
frustrating
or over the course of the weekend in terms of who they played, how they looked. Seahawks 34-14 blowout victory on the road as 3-point dogs. A little bit of a running back show in this one. Two guys I'd probably say, would you call them top 5 running backs? Top 5 running backs in the NFL right now. Kenny Walker and Bijan Robinson. Are they top 5?
Fringe
top 5?
Well, they're top 5, but I think any given day, depending on how a running back feels and how the matchup is defensively, can dictate what we're looking at.
True.
So I would say, yes, these are
position.
top running backs in the league. But I mean, it's hard to go top 5, the quarterback list changes every week. The running back list changes every week.
I'll call them 2 of the top 5 easily most physically gifted.
Kenneth Walker is either incredible or he's hurt.
Yeah.
That's
you know what I mean?
True. Bijan Robinson is either incredible or not trusted by his coaches. Like we've seen backup running backs come in here for the Falcons and have the same or more success than Bijan Robinson has had.
Well, Tyler Algier is a great back in terms of outside zone runner. Bijan is a all-around talent at running back. And you saw as a receiver in this game.
We're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And that's like why you don't draft running backs top 10 the way you did Bijan Robinson, right?
Yes.
Like, because he's not going to move the needle. If they didn't have him and they just had Tyler Algier, but instead, I can't even remember who was in that draft now. Instead, I drafted a different positional player in that top 10.
What year was that?
That was 2023. That was just last year. It wasn't a great top 10, but
Falcons disappointed me.
But I will say he made some cuts in this game that were just like unbelievable. Do we have a clip that I pulled up here? One of these was his ability to get laterally, not this play. This was a great stunt pickup by Chris Lindstrom. Look at him right guard.
Nobody over you find work. You got that 4-eye drops. Go find somebody. There he goes.
Crossing the
action
pocket
right there.
That was sweet. But the way to Bijan jump cut, that was just elite. I guess I didn't pull the clip up. That's on me. But outside of that, I said it pregame. I was like, the Seahawks offensive line, they're not going to change their stripes at this point. Ryan Grubb still wasn't giving them help. But the Falcons just aren't good enough to get home in that quickness to really affect Geno Smith, really get him off the spot. And you saw it. Geno just balled out in this one. The 2-minute drill he had at the end of the first half was spectacular. A couple dots in that. And he just had some beautiful throws throughout the game. Hats off to him. He went out there and just outdueled Kirk. We saw so many Kirk specials in this one, which the Kirk special is looking like someone just got off their couch under pressure and was like, scared as all can be with guys around him. I don't know why he does that. He still kind of can complete some passes at times doing
PTSD.
that. But
and people who have been injured in the game of football, when they're back in the game of football and the things are moving around them really fast, sometimes you revert to, I need to get into my shell. I need to cave in here. I remember when I came back from injury, I'd be drive blocking a 3 technique and I could sense that running back behind me and I would start to move my butt and get my legs out of the way. That's what quarterbacks deal with mentally because they know how it feels to be injured. They know how long it takes to come back. And when you're like 38 years old, whatever Kirk Cousins is, it weighs heavier on your mind. So you get around him in the pocket and you could see that Kirk action that you're talking about.
Seahawks, though, they're just a different animal when that D-line's healthy. You had Byron Murphy back in this one. You had Boye Mafe back. You had Derek Hall playing out of his mind in this one. They have guys there along the defensive line, but they just obviously need to be healthy. So Seahawks atop the NFC West now at 4-3. All right, let's move on to Panthers Commanders. Panthers get rolled 40-7. This one was one of my favorite bets of the week because I teased the Commanders up to like 13.5.
40 burger.
I was like, I took an alt line. I was like, they're just gonna blow the doors off the Panthers. The Panthers
show me how to do alt lines. I don't know how to do that stuff.
I have not seen a worse collection of defensive talent. I don't think they're at least right now, when you have Derek Brown out, when you have the guys that they have injured, They're so bad. They've now allowed through 7 games 243 points. That is the most in the NFL by...
That's 30 points a game?
50 points. This is the most in the NFL by 50 points right now.
They've given up how many points?
243. They're almost allowing 34.7 points per game.
Jeez.
They turn every offense they face into the 07 Patriots. That's like...
30 plus is so much. 30 plus is so much. And when it's every week, you do not have a chance to win. I mean, especially when you got questions at the quarterback position, there's no chance of this. I don't even know why we're talking about this.
We've talked about Kevin Stefanski. You know, maybe if they weren't going to let him move off to Deshaun Watson, just say, hey, I'm going to resign. Like, why would you want to go to that workplace every day doing that? Just for no reason. I think Ejiro Evero, defense coordinator for the Panthers, I feel very similar
Same
about
spot.
him. It's just like, dude, he can dial up the most perfect call and just knowing exactly what the offense is going to do. And I don't think it matters for this Panthers team right now. They just don't have the dudes.
They don't have the Johnnies or the Joes.
Yeah. So,
and credit to Cliff Kingsbury, Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. I love, though,
we already said it,
that the Commanders scored 40 and the game hit the under. So
wow.
51.5 points was the under. So Commanders, I got to give another hats off to Cliff Kingsbury, what he's done, scheming up this offense. And then what do you say, like in the very first drive with Jaden Daniels, the long play they got hurt on was a perfectly dialed up counter option run that just sucked every second level defender for the Panthers into the run action. Jaden Daniels just waltzed him free
30
down the
yards to
sideline.
throw the ball.
So this Commanders team, if you're like expecting a step back from this offense, now if Jaden Daniels is not going to play next week, it's going to be tough against the Bears. But I think every single week they're going to.
I think they come back down to earth against the Bears.
Of course you do.
They do. That's just truth.
All right, Titans Bills. Another blowout here towards the end of this week. But the over did hit 34-10. The Bills run away with it.
A lot tighter than this.
No Will Levis in this one. Yeah, the Bills actually scored 17 in the fourth quarter, which is wild. They were still like rolling with like 2.5 minutes left. They still have Josh Allen out there throwing the ball, which I didn't hate with over
MVP
ticket holder.
Josh.
But I wrote here, I think the offensive problems are a little bigger than Will Levis there in Tennessee. You saw in this one, I have a compilation of Calvin Ridley.
Oh no.
That is going to be, you got to watch this
compilation
because he complained last week and then farted out this performance. Look at this deep comeback. Those are the routes he should run, but those are also the balls he should catch. Nice little drop from him there. This one, easy slant off his hands. We didn't see it, but then this one was the worst one. He slows down and then lets the ball go over his head. If you are getting paid and now his cap hits the next 3 years, you'll be 30 in December. Cap hits are 28 million, 26.8 million, 27.3 million. For that. That one was especially
now that
could have been a touchdown. That's a misjudge. No, that one.
That's a misjudge. But it's these ones. It's the hitches. It's the comebacks. That's where I have issues because those are the ones that keep your offense on schedule. That's what keeps you in rhythm. It's like when you go out and you go dancing. You go dancing. It's like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You miss one of those twos. You got to step back, find the beat again. That's what happens when you miss these hitch routes and the slants and the gimmies. Essentially, this one right here. These quarterbacks throw different balls. I understand that. You haven't gotten you were bitching about your targets last week. I don't know how many deep crosses this guy's had, but between two players, that one I'll write off to misjudge. But it's the stone hands plays. It's the plays where you're not coming directly back to the football. They talk about coming back down your stem on these comebacks. That's one thing I've heard. I'm an O-lineman. Mm-hmm. Even I know you got to come back to the football. You got to play with strong hands. Nobody wants to throw you the ball if you're not going to be able to catch it on these ones.
Yeah, it's that's not what you do after you complain about your targets. Because in this game, 9 targets, 3 catches for 42 yards, but it really was only 2 catches for 9 yards because 33 of those came on the end of the half lateral play.
That's not standing on business.
That ain't standing on business. Other side of the ball, though, Bills, they got Amari Cooper involved early. Very first third down. We said it. This is the time to use Amari Cooper. Well, he dropped it. But then the next 4 times he was targeted, he was their man beater, and he cooked Jarvis Brownlee better than anyone else cooked Jarvis Brownlee. Now, he gave up some yards in that game, Brownlee did, but he on numerous third downs, he had Keon Coleman in jail at the line of scrimmage. I highlighted him as one of the best rookie cornerbacks so far this season. I thought he played well, but obviously gave up some big plays. He actually had one of the weirdest plays I saw all year. I didn't clip it. I should have. He locked down Keon Coleman so badly. It was Keon Coleman's first catch in this game that Josh Allen looked at him. And then as soon as Josh Allen looked away, Brownlee threw Coleman to the side and goes to another wide receiver because he's like, okay, he's
out of the play. Yeah,
he's out of the
he
play.
Went through his progression.
And then Josh Allen, it was just a glance away. And then he goes right back to Coleman, and then he was wide open. I was like, well, what the heck was he doing?
He was too good.
Too good. Yes, he was in too good a coverage at first to then play. But going back to Amari Cooper, you saw him be able to win one-on-one.
Yeah.
Numerous third downs in that game when he was not on the football field.
Red area.
Other guys were not. And so I think his addition is, small impact in this game. He wasn't playing full complement of snaps. I think you'll see it pay off quickly.
And he'll get better every
big
week.
Dividends very early on for this Bills team, because that's just the thing that no one feared when you're facing the Buffalo Bills. Now they have to at least game plan for one guy. And that's really all it takes. When you have man coverage, you see man, and you get one-on-ones across the board, it just takes the one guy, right? It just takes, you can throw it to one guy every single time because every route's almost the same at that point. It's just, can you win or can you not?
Now, I know that
Mark Cooper
he is getting the install as fast as he can. He knows what to do. And I know that a lot of these offenses throughout the league, route trees are similar. There's a reason we run certain concepts. It's an out with two slants. It's the bench concept. There's a bunch of different concepts. You'd find them in your Madden playbook. Once you figure out why you're doing these things, you can play faster. You can be more in tune with Josh Allen. And I think as these games go on, Amari's going to get better and better. And to your point, Joe Brady's going to find out exactly how to be using these guys the right way. And this Bills offense is just going to roll. I mean, Josh Allen is playing great football. He's not turning the ball over. And he's got a true star in Amari Cooper now.
I think another underrated addition of the Cooper trade is Cooper really is like a student of the game at wide receiver in terms of technique. Having that guy for as many young wide receivers as the Bills
100%
is going to be a massive resource for them.
Now, he's not an extremely vocal guy. Mm-hmm. I can probably count on one hand the amount of times I've heard Amari Cooper speak. I couldn't even tell you what he sounds like, but I'll tell you what, your actions speak louder than words, particularly in the NFL. And when you're a young guy watching a guy like Amari Cooper, nothing else needs to be said. You're showing me how to do it. I can do it too.
All right, we're going to take a quick break after that. Going to get to the Eagles at Giants.
The Birds.
It's a team almost too good to be true.
You guys ain't ready for us.
Kick your game day off right as the Tops team tackles all the biggest headlines around the league.
Who's got two thumbs and loves this next segment?
Sunday mornings on CBS Sports Network.
All right,
Eagles.
Mike, did you watch the target tape on this game yet?
And Malik Neighbors.
Because Malik Neighbors said to take a look at the target tape. I was open a lot. Dude, you just got beat 28-3.
No one's questioning how good you are, dude.
We
no one's
know
blaming
how
you.
good you are at football, dude. We want to know if the Giants can win games. We want to know if they're a team. We want to know if you're bought in to being one of 53. Me and Mike, we love Malik Neighbors, okay? He's an absolute star. He's going to be a superstar in this league. But you're doing yourself no favors when you say stuff like that, because if people watch the game, and we do, we know that you're open, okay? What doesn't need to be, what do they say? What doesn't need to be said?
Oh, left unsaid, something about
what that is, that quote. That's
better left
that.
unsaid.
Better left unsaid, dude. Okay? Go ahead with the game.
Daniel Jones sacked 8 times in this one. Eagles run away 28-3. Nakobe Dean gets 2 sacks. Jalen Carter gets 2 sacks. Nolan Smith got a sack. Felt like I was watching 2021 Georgia out there owning this Giants offense. And for the Eagles, all is not completely well, but the running game was on track here. 176 rushing yards for Saquon Barkley and only 17 carries. That worked. But Jalen Hurts, this drop back passing game. In the entire game, there were only 2 pass plays of 15-plus yards the entire game.
Touchdown, A.J. Brown.
Both were to A.J. Brown.
Yep.
And one was 15 yards to A.J. Brown. So this offense was not back to whatever form we expected it to be back to, because Hurts didn't even throw a pass on a third of his dropbacks. 21 dropbacks. He only throws 14 passes, what was it, 3 sacks and 4 scrambles, or maybe 4 sacks and 3 scrambles?
Well, that front has been doing a great job for the New York Giants. Okay, like we can say what we want about their football team, but they've been getting home against passers. So for that offense, for Kellen Moore to say we are going to take the pressure off of Jalen Hurts, because you and I both know he can be a liability sometimes, and he's not as dynamic as he has been in the past. I think the best has come and gone for Jalen Hurts, but for this offense and the tools that they have, and with Mailata out, there was a lot going on in Kellen Moore's head. He said, this is how we're going to win the game. We're going to run the football effectively. I thought they did that. Saquon Barkley was unreal. And at the end of the day, the better team won the football game, and the team with the better plan won the football game. And to your point, when he does drop back, it can be a problem for this Philadelphia Eagles team.
Yeah, this drop back passing offense still difficult to watch. I mean, you just look at them and the Commanders in the same division, where it ain't a talent thing, right? You know, like no one's going to argue with a straight face that the Commanders have more talent right now than the Philadelphia Eagles. However, on a week in and week out basis, they just make it look a lot easier. I talked about Patrick Mahomes has the lower EPA per dropback than Trevor Lawrence. Well, so does Jalen Hurts right now. And that just should not be the case with this Philadelphia Eagles offense, unfortunately. So while 28 points, good, I still do worry about what are they going to do against pass. Other side of the ball, though, Quignon and Cooper DeJean, awesome games from both. Obviously, the Giants didn't have a lot of time to pass, but when they did, I thought both played outstanding. So everyone hyped up those picks. Everyone called them out as like A+ picks at the time. And in retrospect, they're starting to live up to said billing. All right, a couple more games, or 3 more games to get through. We're going to run through these. Dolphins at Colts. Colts 16-10. They take it. It was tight. It was tight down to the wire, though.
This is what we call a rock fight.
Because Anthony Richardson, in his first game back from injury, did not get more accurate. He goes 10 of 24 for 129 yards. And, dude, the last drive of the game, they're up 3. They're just trying to ice it out. 4:34 remaining. He drilled a hole shot that was like through defenders' hands. He's taking like, what are you doing? That's not the situation to go hero. Worked out for them. They obviously get the win, but the Colts have a serious like decision on their hands here.
Yes,
going forward, because they are 4-3. They are.
Do they turn him into Taysom Hill?
Here's the thing. They don't. And I was watching this game, and I was like, well, they really don't roll him out of the pocket. And I went back and like watched like previous games. I was like, well, they actually don't roll him out the pocket at all. And I couldn't believe that. And it is something that I was just like, you have a 6'4", 249 pounder who runs a 4.41. They make him play like from the pocket. Their play action dropbacks are still dropbacks. They are not
change the
roll
launch
action.
point. Sometimes he's behind the tackle or the opposite tackle, but he's not. But he's
never
contain.
Getting on the edge and like making defenders' eyes be like, "Oh, do I have to like?"
Yeah, that classic Madden play where you roll out and you force that second level defender to either cover the quarterback or cover the guy downfield, thus allowing you to either run it or throw it. And yeah, to your point, that should be like the staple in the offense.
It's like that is the quintessential my quarterback struggling. Dial up a half dozen of those in a game.
Yep.
You saw Spencer Rattler's very first start. I think they ran like that.
Russell Wilson did it like 4 times last night.
Yeah.
To Darnell Washington.
So I don't know. I don't know why that I would start to add that, because the drop back passing game just ain't working there in Indy, unfortunately. The drop back passing game definitely ain't working though in Miami. Miami has scored as many points all season long as they did in one game last year against the Denver Broncos. 70 points all year long in 6 games. It's been atrocious. Tyler Huntley, he doesn't work outside the numbers. He just wants to throw over the middle of the football field. He obviously doesn't look like he's up to speed in this offense, but they don't really have other options there. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle combined for 2 catches and 19 yards in this game.
Who is more to blame, Mike McDaniel or Snoop Huntley?
So you have a backup quarterback with a terrible offensive line. It's not going to be good. But the fact that he hasn't adjusted at this point to even just, again, you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, right? Like you can do things to just get them the football. And yeah, the Colts stayed in too high. Like they literally, I think, only played too high in this game. They were refusing to let anything deep. They were basically saying, put together a full drive on us, backup quarterback here. And obviously they didn't very often. But then you have to adjust. You have to do something to get them the ball in their hands quickly underneath because those guys can make plays. Not a lot of other people in that offense can.
So Harry, who is our producer, he had a tweet yesterday at 4:18 p.m. Eastern time, and he's a huge Dolphins fan. And he said, "I've been a Mike McDaniel supporter, ... But I think this season especially has revealed his fatal flaw as head coach. He can't pull the team out of negative game script. If he's ahead and things are going well, no problem. If he's behind or we fumble or there's an injury, disaster." And it kind of seems like he does have a little bit of that front runner to him. And we've kind of seen him become a shell of himself from a personality standpoint. His quotes, they're way less, they're way harder to come by than they have been in years past. And obviously when you don't have Tua, who's a great distributor of the football and somebody who is kind of the spark plug to that offense, you end up with Tyreek Hill and Jaden Waddle getting 2 catches for 40 yards. And that's a big problem. And I know that Harry is a big football fan, and there's a lot of these Dolphins fans that have all these talented pieces on the offensive side of the ball. They've seen a historic offense the last few years, and now they can't even pee inside the toilet. They're just pissing all over the seat every single time they go out there offensively. And it's got to be frustrating for guys like Harry and Dolphins fans all over.
I will say the kind of when you have the coaching attitude that Mike McDaniel does, the laissez-faire, anything goes. Prisco harps on this about how like the practices there were kind of just anyone doing what they wanted.
New
to do.
school.
When things go south, that's why those coaching staffs get criticized, is because you can't lay down. Like there's a lot of the mistakes and a lot of like the issues, like you can't all of a sudden flip that switch and expect guys to then
can't be tough love now.
Yes.
It's like Andy
change
Reid,
their ways.
Spags, the Kansas City Chiefs are one of the few teams that still goes away to training camp. They go together to a Southwestern Missouri State University, I believe. And it pays dividends the entire season. You know, they can be winning, they can be losing, they can be tied, but you're going to get the same Kansas City Chiefs. And I think to your point about, this laissez-faire attitude in Miami, it bleeds into the way you play football.
Yes.
They don't have that in great teams like Baltimore, like Kansas City. And that's probably what fans are begging for.
Because discipline in one area, like you said, bleeds over into any other area. If you're just undisciplined throughout practice, yeah, maybe it won't show up every game, but it will.
It'll matter when it does.
Yes, exactly. So from the Dolphins' perspective,
and we let him off the hook.
They are still ahead of the New York Jets in the AFC East.
Hey, you still have that game you put up 73 on the Broncos a couple years ago. Okay, you guys can still.
They're
talk
still
about
ahead
that.
of the New York Jets,
and you guys finished undefeated one year, so that's cool.
All right, Patriots, Jags. Patriots lose 16-32, but if you're a Patriots fan, I don't think you care.
Drake May
looked good, man. Like that was, and now he didn't have a lot of help. He was under heat. But I could not believe how quickly he was just letting rip. I mean, he felt.
He's confident.
There was no hesitation.
He's confident.
And it wasn't like, I talked about Bryce Young at the beginning of the season looking sped up, where he's throwing a check down, no routes or even breaking yet.
He was in a hurry.
Yes.
Drake plays fast.
Swiftly, exactly. So still a few airmails, still some inaccuracy, but I thought the fourth quarter touchdown drive that he had was just like elite stuff. And I get that they were down 2 scores at that point and maybe weren't facing the toughest looks that the Jaguars could dial up, but he had a seam ball against cover 2 to a slot fade, evaded pressure. Like he had
big box fade. I've heard that my whole life, and I found out yesterday that it's the inside receiver running the fade route to the pylon.
That's what it's called?
That's big box fade.
Why was it called the big box fade?
Don't know.
I like it.
But they explained it.
It was a big box fade,
sense.
but it wasn't actually a slot wide receiver. It was just like a nasty split outside wide receiver. But he ran the fade from it.
Nasty.
And then the touchdown, 3rd and 15. Seam bender. He just hits the back foot and that thing comes out. So, man, if you're a Patriots fan, you watch that.
Stoked.
You're just like.
I have a Drake May jersey. I got a Drake May jersey. Did you know that? I don't own jerseys. I have a Drake May jersey. I'm not even a Patriots fan. I just like the guy. He reminds me of Phillip Rivers a little bit when he talks, which it's nostalgia. I like that. It reminds me of the early 2000s.
He's obviously they still only scored 16 points, but they didn't have a running game to speak of. I think they had gained 20 yards on 12 runs in this game. That's no running game to speak of. Those are, you might as well now you hand it off in this one, because when 47 dropbacks, he never really looked like it was too much for him to have that many dropbacks.
What do you think about Coach Mayo calling his team soft?
I mean, he gave up 32 to the Jags. Although I will say, Trevor Lawrence, that was darn near flawless performance. He had another awesome game.
I mean, I take issue with a coach saying that entire team is soft.
They did get ran on, and it was inside zone.
I think
they were just getting
the dictionary is big enough.
Oh, I don't call people soft.
The dictionary is big enough to where you don't have to call me soft. And I would think that a guy like Jared Mayo, who played in the game at the highest level, would know better than that.
Especially when
that's how you create division in a locker room.
Especially when it's in reference to a group.
Can't do that.
Because there are definitely guys in that group who are not soft.
100%.
Who you have just now labeled.
I think it's bullshit. I think it's lazy.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. And if nobody else is going to say it, I'll say it. I take issue with Coach Mayo saying that the guys are soft.
They did not look good, though. 32 points against this. Could not stop the run. Front seven.
Say that. We were shitty today.
Not playing up to
snuff. We were not good enough. We got dominated. We got embarrassed. Don't call me soft. Or you got to find out for yourself. No disrespect. I don't know Jared Mayo, but like that's just like, you don't do that. If you want to point out specific guys on film on Monday, have that team meeting be 3 hours long. I don't give a shit. But when you throw everybody into the same boat,
what was the most mad you were in your career about a coaching soundbite after a game?
It was halftime in London, coincidentally, when we were getting beat by the Raiders. I was out there playing on a torn hip flexor. None of my body parts were working. I was injured. I wasn't soft. Our group got called soft. And it's one of those things that's unforgivable.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to hit you.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to choke your little head till it explodes like a pimple. I can't do that because I'm a gentleman. I'm not going to call you a dumbass for a bad call. We're on a team. And if you want it to be a team, you treat these people like your teammates and your family.
Yeah, I mean, you don't go, like, no player would go to a podium and be like,
what an idiotic call.
Yeah. Coach is calling soft plays.
So, and Jared Mayo's a young coach and he'll figure it out. Yeah. I don't know. I won't say that he regrets it because he said it. He may regret it. He may come out this week and say he regrets it, but I don't know, man.
I do think that's
not how you make tight relationships.
We're seeing an interesting dynamic between the player coaches, like the former player coaches who are being billed as these new wave of like Dan Campbell's of the world, right? So some have, with Dan Campbell, I think he has an attitude or a vision that always comes back to him. The onus of like control of things going wrong.
He empowers his players. Him.
Whereas some other guys, Antonio Pierce, now Gerard Mayo, the onus is getting put on anyone but me.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different. And when that's the case, like there is, you're just going to lose the locker rooms when you do
the fiber of the locker room starts to break down.
Yeah.
I don't know. It rubbed me the wrong way and I had to say it.
Last note, Jalen Polk
clipped for that.
Jalen Polk in this game, he's had a rough few weeks since I said his production would go off. 3 contested targets in this game that he didn't come down with any of them, and then he fell on a 2-point conversion. So tough stuff for the rookie. All right, last game, Broncos Saints, Thursday Night Football. Broncos win going away 33-10.
Williams and Knicks, first half running game. What do you do when you're on the road? You got a rookie quarterback, and you know that if I'm Sean Payton and I'm a smart coach, I'm going to say I'm not going to let Bo Nix lose this game. I don't think he's going to lose the game for us because I got faith in him and I picked him. But at the end of the day, we're going to put the ball in our running backs' hands. We're going to let Quinn Miners and Mike McGlinchey just dominate the point of attack, get that running game rolling, and just suck the life out of that Saints team in the first half. Spencer Rattler was a little bit rattled. There was a lot of funky plays. There was a lot of Levising going on in New Orleans the other night.
Yeah, getting Mike Lynch back was massive in this game at right tackle because they just could impose their will on the ground. I wrote here, Bo Nix is white Anthony Richardson right now.
That's good.
He's missing too many throws, man.
That's good.
And I know I saw people saying, what happened to Nix? He broke the single season completion percentage record. It was like, no, Nix's accuracy was always kind of the issue. The completion percentage record was very fake. If you watched Oregon's offense last year, his accuracy was always just ball placement has always been a little shaky. I thought of all the top quarterbacks of the draft, him or May were probably the least accurate in college. I think you've kind of seen a little bit of that in the NFL with May so far. But he can move, man. 4 first downs with his legs in this game. Has only taken 9 sacks in 7 games, which is an awesome trait to have if you are a
best friend right there.
First team. If you're going to run the football, having a quarterback that can also run and having a quarterback who doesn't take sacks is huge for you. And now, other side of the ball, I think Spencer Rattler was just in over his head. This was a D-line that getting Baron Browning back and then having Nick Benito go against Talia-Safuaga, who's just like the rusher Talia-Safuaga doesn't want to see, a guy who just has like an elite first step off the ball.
Yeah.
They were...
Fuaga's like, please bull rush me.
Yeah.
Please run into my chest.
Nope, I'll go around you. And he did multiple times in that game. So Baron Browning, that just... he went down in week 2. He is another guy. I think Benito ran low 4.5s coming out. Baron Browning ran low 4.5s coming out. These are explosive edge rushers to add to this blitz package that just... especially if you're a Rick quarterback, is a lot, but they're going to be tough against anyone with that defense right now. They're the AFC Vikings. They're the AFC Vikings with a rookie at quarterback.
They just, they frustrate the hell out of offenses. And yeah, that's got to be tough for the Saints. The way that happens, 2 weeks in a row, getting beat the way they did. So moving forward, is Derek Carr going to be healthy? Is Spencer Rattler...
What do you do with the Saints? Like, even if he is healthy, you are 2-5 now. For all intents and purposes, your season's over.
Do you garage sale?
That's what I'm thinking.
Garage sale.
You have for
it's not going to be Dennis Allen next year, is it?
I don't think so. You have for so long just held on to this aging roster with guys there. Some of the cap hits of guys on this roster you would not believe, because they've pushed it all down the road just to try to every year have enough space just to make ends meet, right? But they've kind of every year tried to sign that one free agent to really put them over the top and just kept kicking this can. Do you finally say, hey, reset. That's it? We're going to reset?
Well, the reset could be a lot quicker than the current strategy. We've seen this happen for teams before. You get one pick, the one pick goes the right way. Maybe you get the right coach in there. The culture changes. Next thing you know, New Orleans is, again, one of the toughest places to play. Get new blood in that locker room. Quit kicking the can. Maybe go get a bottle.
Because here, just reading off some, next year, Alvin Kamara's cap number, $29 million. Marshawn Lattimore, $31.4 million.
Alvin Kamara needs to go to the Chiefs.
Cam Jordan, $20 million. He's going to be 36 years old next year.
Yeah.
Derek Carr, $51.5 million. Ryan Ramczyk, $29 million. Demario Davis, $12.5. He's going to be the oldest linebacker in the NFL. He'll be like 36 next year. Some of these numbers are just untenable for not guys who are making an impact on this roster. So I think it's time. And if I were them, like this offseason, sign Chase Young to go 2-5. Just
to fall over on draws.
Just reset.
Yeah.
Just reset. I think it's time. All right. Last segment here before we wrap up. Upon further review. What's yours?
Upon further review, I was wrong about Russell Wilson and George Pickens and this Steelers situation and Mike Tomlin's willingness to go, hey, let's just see what Russell can do. And I give credit to Jonathan Jones, who essentially was telling me, no. They like the way he looked in training camp, Russell Wilson. And they haven't obviously gotten the things out of Justin Fields that they want. But when George Pickens is bought in, and when he is on the same page with the offense and he's given maximum effort, there's not many guys in the league I'd pick over him, because you have a chance, covered or uncovered, jump balls, contested catches, to make an explosive play every single time that he's on the field. And Russell Wilson went out there and he used George Pickens' strength to his advantage. And obviously Russ throws a really good deep ball, high, lofty deep ball, gives his guy the biggest chance to catch it. And he went out there last night, and Mike Tomlin proved me wrong. He proved a lot of people wrong. And I thought against that front with the Jets, with the issues that they were having in terms of health, for the Pittsburgh Steelers up front on the offensive line. They were throwing Russell Wilson to the wolves. I thought he wouldn't be able to be mobile enough to get away from pressure. I was wrong. I thought that they wouldn't be able to hold up long enough for him to be able to throw the football down the field and let George Pickens make plays. I was wrong. They ran the football all over the field. They threw the football deep in situations where they could throw the football deep, and I give them credit. Russell Wilson was awesome. The atmosphere last night at Heinz Field was electric. The sky just looks blacker in Pittsburgh in these primetime games. It's like, the jerseys, the sky, all the questions about the Steelers. It was perfect, and a must-win game for the Jets. In a game that was so must-win, this Steelers team went out there. George Pickens was the reason. I know Russell Wilson was a big reason, giving him chances, but George making catch after catch, huge catches. That was the difference in the football game. Give credit to George Pickens. Buddy, you could be this every week if you wanted to.
5 catches, 111 yards, touchdown, and a big drawn pass interference down the sideline too on Sauce Gardner. Yeah, I saw people saying after, his whole meltdown or whatever a couple weeks ago that he's not good enough to be acting like this. Well, I mean, like questioning how good he was, not more so. No one should be acting like
He's
this.
the
I'm not
most
condoning
talented
it.
guy not named TJ Watt on the roster.
But he is good enough. This guy's a monster when he wants to be. Truly an all-around number one type of wide receiver. And I think in this game, you saw why. All right, my upon further review. Why do we treat the quarterback position with kitty gloves? If someone is playing like poop, like the guy you see on their screen, Daniel Jones, why don't we bench guys more at the quarterback position? I feel like a lot of people think you got to protect their mentality. You got to protect their psyche or whatever. And I'm looking at some other teams around the NFL, whether it's Cleveland, whether it's Indy, who may have a decision on their hands here, depending on how the next few weeks go here, that sometimes guys getting sat down is the best thing that can happen for them. I go back to, I remember Kurt Warner with the Giants gets sat down for Eli Manning, and people are like, okay, that's it for Kurt Warner. He goes to Arizona Cardinals, has a second half of his career that's just like as good, almost as good as what he had in St. Louis with the Rams. So it's like, I think a lot of times the benching of guys is very overrated and necessary. Sometimes when a guy is not playing well, he needs the mental break. He needs to be told this isn't good enough. Now, it's not saying that always the backup's going to be better, but I think everyone hemming and hawing as if you're going to ruin a guy mentally for sitting him down. If that's going to ruin him mentally, he
ain't the guy.
He wasn't the guy to begin with. I want more benchings at the quarterback position across the NFL and more people just willing to make that decision because it's sometimes has to happen. And if you're truthful about it, the way Mike Tomlin was, this goes back to kind of what you were talking about with the Steelers. If you give an honest answer as a coach and you have that messaging to the locker room that, hey, this play wasn't good enough.
I want to see what that guy can give us.
We want to see what this guy can do. Doesn't mean he's going to be good enough. It just means I want better at that position.
Prime example. They're down at the goal line. They try to run it a couple times. And then you see Mike Tomlin say something to Arthur Smith, right?
Yeah.
You can see it on the sideline. He essentially told Arthur Smith, this is the kind of play I want. They run down there. They go condensed with one guy split out wide. It's George Pickens. Chris Collinsworth was like, oh, they're going to run it right up the gut here. I looked at Kate, my wife. I said, they're throwing it to Pickens. This is a tryout we're watching on Sunday Night Football. We watched an NFL quarterback trying out for his head coach on an international stage. And not only did Russell Wilson pass the test, but in that very moment where he threw the fade ball, he passed the test again. It was awesome to see Russell Wilson do that. I was wrong. I say it again. I was wrong about Russell Wilson, but it was awesome to see him do that. And Tomlin, in the moment, telling Arthur Smith, throw the damn fade ball to Pickens. The guy is showing up today. And then he makes a play. To your point, it's like, give the guy the hot hand or even get the cold hand out.
Yes.
Do a temp check on the other hand. Okay.
Exactly.
It's okay to do that.
Exactly. That's
and
all.
if you're not okay with that as a starter, to your point, you're not the guy.
So just because you lose fan bases, you lose locker rooms when you're just throwing the guy out there who everyone knows is not playing up.
Yep.
Everyone knows it. You can't hide that fact. Everyone knows it. All right. That's my upon further review. Had to get that off my chest.
That's great.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow. breaking down power rankings, recapping both Monday Night Football games from tonight. Until next time,
Both of them.
keep pushing.
Peace.